So now I'm going to give you all the final story of the evening, and that is a story that I've made up. This is not a true story. It may happen one day, in which case it might become a true story, but at the moment it's certainly not a true story. But what happens in the story is that I'm still a USA citizen, and I was awarded the Medal of the Arts, which is the top medal. Barry, do you know anyone who's ever been awarded the Medal of the Arts? Barry might get awarded one day. He'll be awarded long before.
Not that I know of. Who knows?
Well, you'll get it long before I do. But in this story, I am awarded the Medal of the Arts. There's a congressional committee that decides together with the president. And then the president gives the awards at a big ceremony, and usually in Washington, D.C. But now, of course, with the virus, this award ceremony was held by Zoom. So the big day came, and I was so excited. I zoomed in. I clicked the connection way early, and there I was in the middle of the Zoom situation with all the windows. And the director, I knew he was the director because he was telling everyone what to do. He was trying to get everybody ready and organized. And I saw in one of the other little rectangles, President Donald Trump in the flesh, or not in the flesh, but in the rectangle. So the director said to President Trump, "Sir, we're doing some stage work here. I think you'd be more comfortable if I put you in a breakout room, so you wouldn't have to watch all of our backstage preparations." And President Trump said, "Okay." And but before he did that, the director said, "Oh, and Dr. Eric Miller, you're one of the award recipients tonight, yes?" And I said, "Yes." So he said, "President Trump, is it okay if I put Dr. Miller in the room with you, so you can both be, safe there?" And President Trump said, "Sure." So before I knew it, I was transported into a private breakout room with President Donald Trump. And I didn't know what to say. But then finally I said, "President Trump, you and I were neighbors many years ago. In 1983, when you moved into Trump Tower, you built and moved into Trump Tower in 83, you were 37 and I was 26, because, sir, you're 11 years older than me. And Trump Tower is on 5th Avenue, near 56th Street. And I was living, I'd completed college and was living back home with my parents at 55th and 7th. So from 55th and 7th to 56th and 5th is only 2 or 3 blocks. So I was your neighbor there." And President Trump said, "Okay, wonderful. How did your family happen to be living right there? Because 55th and 7th, where I grew up, is right next to Broadway. All the Broadway, it's tucked in between all the Broadway theaters and Central Park." So I said, "Well, my father was a theater critic, and he went to all the Broadway shows to write about them and took me with him. And also my mother was editor of a magazine about dance, and that magazine was also in the neighborhood. So I was I had a real Manhattan arts upbringing. So President Trump, why did you choose to move to Midtown Manhattan?" And he said, "Well, I love the excitement of Manhattan, and I love show business. Eric, I owned and organized a number of beauty contests. I appreciate beautiful women, and that's a big part of the show business scene in New York. So I said, well, President Trump, I really want to thank you about something. Because in 1986, you repaired that ice skating rink. You see, for 5 years, excuse me, for 5 years, we had a ice skating rink as you know, President Trump, the Wallman skating rink in the southern end of Central Park, it went out of repair and the city could not fix it. It was a classic example of the government not being able to get a job done. So in '86, you approached the mayor, Mayor Ed Koch, and volunteered to do it at cost. And you had contractors working at cost, and you repaired that ice skating rink, all the pipes underneath the cement. I remember it opened in November '86, under budget and before schedule. And so many of us who were living in Midtown Manhattan in those days, we were so grateful to you that you fixed that ice skating rink. And President Trump said, oh, well, thank you, Eric. Yes, I did a lot of building in those days and I was good at it. I wish New Yorkers loved me as much now as they loved me then. So I said, President Trump, but you've changed. In the 80s and 90s, you were so, you supported gay rights, you supported rights for reproductive rights for women. You said something very radical. You said the best way to end the drug war was to legalize drugs so that there would be no more criminal activity and drug use could be treated as a health issue, not as a criminal issue. So we loved you because you had those views, but you've changed. How did you change so much? So he said, Eric, I'll tell you the truth. When I really decided I wanted to be president around 20 years ago, I looked around and I saw that most of the USA is not like New York, not like San Francisco, not like college campuses. I saw most people did not want reproductive rights for women, did not want gays to have rights. So I had to do the necessary to become popular with those people. And I had to support I support the Christian church so much. But I said, President Trump, you never went to church. You were never religious. He said, I know, but Eric, sometimes in life you have to do things. So I said, okay, but now there's this pandemic. There's this, really it's a triple pandemic, I said. First the virus itself, then the racism, and really what I feel is all behind it, President Trump, is the inequality, economic inequality, housing inequality, education inequality. That's what's really driving so much anger against the government and against you. So he said, well, Eric, what can I do? I said, you're the president. Do what FDR did. Raise taxes on corporations and the rich, and have government programs where there's a guaranteed job for anyone who wants one, and make the minimum wage a living wage so people don't have to work and still be poor. So he says, I don't know if there's enough money for all that. I said, President Trump, they do something like this in France, Germany, all the Scandinavian countries, the Nordic model. If they do it there, you can do it here. President Trump, you said you wanted to restore the American dream. The American dream is that people should work hard and be able to support a family and help their children go to college, and children should have a better life than the past generation. That happened for 150 years. Salaries went up until 1970, but since 1970, the last 50 years, workers' salaries have been stagnant. And in 70, the people who ran companies made 20 times as much as the CEO. Now they run, the people, the CEOs make 200 times as much. It's really gone out of balance, and that's what's driving all the hostility. If you really want to make America great again, bring back the middle class, you know, and that means a living wage for work. And a great time when we really, America was great was the 1950s economically, because there were unions and people could work and make a living. You can do it, President Trump, and let's be honest, you yourself began in life with a great advantage. You had a father who was in the building industry, and he taught you, and he supported you, he financed you, and you were his apprentice. You learned about the building trade through him. Shouldn't other people also get some kind of support like that? He said, Eric, you know, I'll try. At that moment, we were transported out of the Zoom room, out of the breakout room, back to the award ceremony. And the music played, and the announcer announced, and very quickly I was awarded the medal. Other people were awarded the medal, and the session ended, and that's the end of my story. Okay.
Definitely a fairy tale. Definitely a fairy tale.
Definitely. Somebody gave me feedback. I made a recording of it as a practice, and somebody looked at it and said, "But Eric, the Eric Miller character, once he was alone with Donald Trump, he didn't talk about storytelling, even though he was there to get the storytelling award." So I said, yes, it's true. Social issues have always been more important to me than storytelling. Storytelling leads to social issues. But I used the stories, my character used the stories of President Trump fixing the skating rink, and President Trump being helped by his father. My character used those stories, hopefully, to inspire the Donald Trump character to see the light and try to create more social safety net. But yes, I plead guilty to telling you all a fairy tale.
Hi Eric, this is Leena here.
Yes.
And I really liked how you imagined and this setup as to how you and President Trump come face to face. It's like through Zoom, and then you are in a private breakout room. So how that also has to feel realistic. And I really liked. I wouldn't have thought about that. I felt if I would have imagine maybe some incidents is okay, but I really like that Zoom setup and how you use that for the actual setup. Really nice, very imaginative.
Thank you. Well, everyone is a human being, even if they're president of the United States, and even if some of their policies are not what one wishes they would be. You have to feel that you can touch people on a human level, even though it may be a fairy tale. All right.
It's very, very creative and very imaginative. Like, who would think something like this? So, love the creativity and the novelty. It's something new that you got to got to
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah, it's a mix of reality and fantasy. I really was raised at 55th and 7th on the 12th floor of a building. And for a number of years, President Trump, before he was president, lived just 3 blocks away. So I had an imaginary relationship with him.
Wow.
And the highlight of it was, I'm telling you, when he fixed that skating rink, he was a hero. Because many, I was 26 at the time, but many children and teenagers were so happy to have that skating rink back. We were so frustrated. 5 years it was out of repair. while they were arguing, should we put Freon underneath the cement, or should we do this, should we do that? And the cement is cracking, we can't do it. And then he just came in like on a knight on a horse and fixed it.
I have to tell you that 86, I was after the Army service, and I came to the States for a year to work and to visit my family. And I was taken to the Central Park to ice skate there, 86.
And the rink was operating?
86, winter of 86, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it opened in November 86.
Yeah, but I was there sometime in the winter. I didn't even know the story.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric, I was in New York at that time as well. We should compare notes at some point. I was working over on the East Side in the 50s. But for now, I wanted to say that I think, your story captures what probably many of us in the United States and perhaps people all over the world imagine. If I were alone with Donald Trump, what would I say? What would I do? I don't have the imagination that you have, because I can't get too deep into that thought experiment without my head wanting to explode.
Well, I just don't understand a lot of the negativity that's thrown up, because I see his charming side. And in the 80s and 90s, he was so charming. And he was a progressive liberal, for goodness sake. He only became a Republican in like 2010. So,
and I think his charm would come through in real life, because I agree with you. I see him as very, very charming. It's just hard because I feel like he's in the wrong job, and
And he has the wrong speechwriters. Let's blame it on the speechwriters.
That's true as well.
Okay. Yes, Sophie?
Okay.
Oh.
It's a goodbye. I'm starting a Zoom.
Yes. No, we're all saying goodbye. Thank you all very much.
On a number of occasions, met English politicians in this sort of situation of chat shows and things where you meet them because they're on the radio, and you get to meet them socially afterwards. And you got to talk to them thinking, I can make real contact with this person. And what do you get? He looks at you and he thinks, this is a member of the public. I must give him my mantra. I must give him my party line. You don't get to and then one day I met a man and he said to me, what would you like from government? I said, I'd love a government that actually cared about the people. And he said, so would I. And his name is Jeremy Corbyn. Which may mean nothing to you, but it means a lot to a lot of people in England, because he was the only genuine politician I've ever met who actually answered a question when he was asked it with a real answer, as opposed to dodging or ducking or weaving.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you all very much. I'll send the topic for next month by email. And if you'd like to tell next month, let me know. I think we should limit it to 10 people, because tonight we had 11 and it's gone too late. If we have 10, it'll go a little bit less late. Anyway, good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.